Imagine walking into your workplace one day and realizing that your every action, every word, is being silently observed. But not by a customer or some hidden camera, by your boss. Now imagine if that boss isn't just any boss, but the CEO of the entire company, someone you'd never expect to meet face to face. In today's story, a successful Black CEO decides to go undercover in one of his stores after receiving troubling complaints about how employees and customers are being treated. He's not looking for numbers or profit margins. He's here to uncover the truth about what's really happening behind the scenes. What he discovers shakes him to his core. A manager who runs the store with an iron fist isn't just harsh, he's outright disrespectful, especially to certain customers and staff. This man, full of arrogance, has no idea who the new trainee actually is. As the CEO witnesses the manager's true colors, the tension builds. Will he call him out on the spot, or is he waiting for the perfect moment to turn the tables? Stay tuned to see how the manager's casual cruelty meets an unexpected and powerful reckoning, and how one decision changes everything. The CEO, who built his business from the ground up, had always prided himself on creating a company culture of respect, inclusivity, and fairness. He'd heard whispers that things weren't as smooth as they seemed on the surface, but he never imagined the extent of the problem. Some of his employees had been quietly complaining about the manager, but it wasn't until an anonymous tip-off reached him that he felt he had no choice but to take matters into his own hands. Undercover and disguised as a new hire, he stepped into the store, blending in with the staff. He kept his head down, focusing on learning the ropes. But it didn't take long for him to notice the manager's behavior. From belittling certain staff members to making customers uncomfortable with biased remarks, it became clear that this wasn't just a case of poor management. This was a toxic environment fueled by racism and discrimination. The more the CEO observed, the more he felt the weight of responsibility bearing down on him. The manager's attitude was so casual, so confident, that it was almost as if he thought he was untouchable. But the CEO knew that wouldn't last for long. He could feel the tension building as the days went on. How much longer could the manager get away with this? As the days passed, the CEO grew more unsettled. Every shift he worked alongside the team, the manager's actions became harder to ignore. There was a particular employee, Jamal, who stood out to him. The young man, hardworking and always polite, had been treated with constant disrespect by the manager. The CEO could see the exhaustion in Jamal's eyes, the subtle way he'd shrink away when the manager walked by. He never said anything, but the pain was obvious. The more the CEO saw this, the more he realized just how deep the problem ran. Other employees had their own silent stories to tell. Sarah, a single mother working 2 jobs, was often passed over for promotions, despite her excellent work ethic. Yet, the manager always found ways to praise others, people who seemed to get ahead simply because they fit his mold. And then there was Mark, an older gentleman who had been with the store for years, yet was constantly overlooked and treated like he didn't belong. It was clear the manager had a narrow, biased view of who deserved respect and who didn't. The tension in the store was palpable. Every interaction felt like a test. When the manager was around, you could almost hear the collective holding of breath. The CEO knew this couldn't go on much longer, but how would he expose the manager without revealing his true identity? Would his cover be blown before he could make a real difference? The tension had reached a boiling point. The CEO's days undercover were growing longer, and with each passing shift, he felt more compelled to confront the manager. He knew the moment was fast approaching when he couldn't hide his true identity any longer. But the thought of what would happen next left him conflicted. Could he expose the manager's actions without turning the entire store against him? Would the employees even trust him once they learned the truth? One afternoon, the CEO witnessed something that pushed him to the edge. A regular customer, a kind older woman, came in to buy a gift for her granddaughter. She had always been polite, always treated the staff with kindness. But today, the manager snapped at her for no reason at all. He questioned her purchase, raised his voice, and even made a comment about her being too old to understand modern products. The woman was visibly shaken, but instead of defending her, the other employees remained silent, their eyes cast down. The atmosphere in the store felt suffocating, like everyone was afraid to speak up. The CEO's heart raced. He couldn't let this go on any longer. But the timing was crucial. If he confronted the manager too soon, he risked exposing his undercover role. He had to make sure he had enough evidence to make it count. Every moment felt like it was leading to a showdown, and with each passing second, the CEO could feel the walls closing in on him. The store, the manager, the employees, they were all caught in a tense waiting game. How much longer could the CEO hide in plain sight before the truth came crushing down? Just when the CEO thought he had reached his limit, the unexpected happened. It was nearing the end of the week, and the atmosphere in the store felt particularly tense. The manager, who had been getting more brazen with his behavior, seemed to be on edge himself. He'd been acting unusually paranoid, eyeing the new trainee with suspicion as if he sensed something wasn't quite right. But it wasn't until the CEO overheard a conversation between the manager and another employee that everything took a sharp turn. The manager, clearly unaware of the CEO's presence, was talking in low, urgent tones with one of his closest confidants in the store. The words that came out of his mouth made the CEO freeze. "If they find out what we've been doing here, we're finished. You know what to do if the new guy starts asking too many questions." The manager's voice was cold, calculating, as he instructed the employee to keep an eye on him and to make sure he didn't get too close to the real issues. The CEO's blood ran cold. It wasn't just about racism and favoritism anymore. There was something deeper, something more dangerous at play. This wasn't just a toxic manager. It was a web of corruption that extended far beyond the store. The CEO realized that the manager was actively trying to protect something or someone. The stakes had escalated to a level he hadn't anticipated. Who else was involved? And what exactly were they hiding? As the realization hit him, the CEO felt a surge of urgency. This wasn't just about confronting the manager anymore. It was about exposing a deeper network of lies, and if he wasn't careful, it could all come crashing down around him. The countdown to the truth had begun, but with every step, the risks grew greater. The game had changed, and the CEO knew that the next move would decide everything. Would he finally unmask the manager's dark secrets, or would the danger be too much to handle? The CEO knew it was time. He could no longer stay in the shadows, watching the manager's cruelty go unchecked. The tension in the store had reached its peak, and he had enough. He decided to confront the manager in front of the whole team. With a mixture of nerves and determination, he gathered the employees together under the guise of a staff meeting. As the manager entered, the CEO could see the look of surprise flash across his face. It was now or never. "There's something you need to hear," the CEO began, his voice steady but commanding. The employees fell silent, their eyes shifting between the two men. The manager tried to play it off, forcing a smile, but it was clear he was rattled. "You've been treating your staff and customers with blatant disrespect, and that's just the beginning. It's time to come clean." The manager's face hardened as he tried to regain control of the situation. "What are you talking about? You're just a trainee. You don't know what's going on here." But the CEO wasn't backing down. He pulled out his phone and began showing the recordings he'd made over the last week. Footage of the manager's biased comments, his treatment of Jamal, Sarah, and others. The proof was irrefutable. The manager's smug attitude crumbled as the weight of his actions became impossible to deny. Just when it seemed like the confrontation would end with the manager's defeat, something unexpected happened. Another employee, one who had stayed quiet throughout the entire ordeal, stepped forward. It was Mark, the older employee who had been overlooked for so long. The CEO had always thought of him as a loyal, quiet worker, but Mark had a secret of his own. "I know about the money," Mark said, his voice steady. "The manager's been skimming off the top for months, funneling cash into his own pockets. I've seen the shady transactions. I've kept quiet for fear of losing my job, But that's not why I'm here now. I'm done with this. The CEO's jaw dropped. The manager, now pale with fear, turned toward Mark, his face twisted with rage. You can't do this. You'll ruin everything. But it was too late. Mark had already contacted the authorities, and they were on their way. In a matter of minutes, the manager was being escorted out of the store by police. The employees, stunned but relieved, couldn't believe what had just happened. As the dust settled, the CEO looked around at the people he had been working with for the past week. He had witnessed their struggles, their silence, and now, their triumph. But just as he was about to address them, the phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from his assistant. We found more evidence. This goes much higher than the store. Someone within corporate is involved. The CEO stared at the screen, the weight of what was still to come sinking in. The battle had just begun. As the police took the manager away, the CEO gathered his team together, offering a heartfelt apology for the way things had been. He promised them real change and a company where respect and fairness would always come first. In the days that followed, an internal investigation revealed a broader network of corruption within the company, and those responsible were held accountable. The CEO's undercover journey had not only exposed a toxic manager, but ignited a much-needed revolution within the organization. The employees, once afraid to speak up, now felt empowered to stand for what was right. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long while, they all believed in the possibility of a better future.